Hi, everyone. My name is Joe Barkley, and I'm Manager of Communities here at ASUG headquarters. I'd like to welcome you today to the Fisker Automotive leverages SAP technology to create the next generation car company BPC webcast, and thank you for participating today. A few housekeeping notes to keep in mind. All of our participants' lines are currently on mute. However, we would like to make sure that you're asking your questions throughout the webcast. If you do have a question, please make sure to type it in the Q&A panel in the lower right corner of your screen. Please be sure to make all of your questions visible in the Q&A panel. It's located in the lower right corner of your screen. Time permitting, I will come back on after the presentation and we'll give you directions on how to ask questions over the phone line if you would like to ask them out loud. Today's webcast is being recorded, and the recording will be sent out to all the registrants and posted to asug.com. I'd like to turn it over to our speaker today, Charles Wilson from RJT CompuQuest.
Thank you very much. First of all, thanks everybody for joining us today, making the time in your schedule to do that, and thank you to ASUG and to Fisker Automotive for joining us for this presentation as well. So really what we want to accomplish today is first we'll introduce Michael Eli, who's Director of IT at Fisker Automotive. Fisker has done quite a bit of work with SAP solutions, and so we'll get a chance to have a conversation with him, learn a little bit about how Fisker Automotive is leveraging SAP to really develop this next generation car company. And we'll also do a presentation on business planning and consolidation, or business objects planning and consolidation from SAP, to introduce anybody that's on the call to that particular solution, and then we will open up the call at the end to answer any questions that you may have, either for Michael, Eli, or myself regarding this particular solution. Michael, are you there?
I'm here.
Hi, Michael. First of all, again, thanks for making the time with us today. Appreciate it. Obviously, we've done a fair amount of work together over the years, and you've done a lot of work, I know, with SAP. I'm sure a lot of individuals on this call are interested in understanding a little bit more about who Fisker Automotive is, what the company is all about, and what you mean by trying to create the next generation car company. Maybe you can talk about that a little bit.
All right. So Fisker Automotive, we are an American car company. We design, develop, and make and sell a premium hybrid electric vehicle, the Fisker Karma. We're a relatively new company, founded in 2007 by Henrik Fisker and Bonnie Kohler, both with many years of automotive background. Henrik Fisker probably well known for being the designer behind the Aston Martin DB9, the Aston Martin Vantage, the BMW Z8. He was also responsible for some development work at Ford as well. And so our mission is to create environmentally conscious vehicles with style, with power, and with performance. And the first vehicle, the Karma, is now on the roads in the U.S. and in Europe. Later on this year, it'll be on the roads in China and in the Middle East. From there, we've announced a couple of additional derivatives on the Karma platform: the Sunset, which is and the Surf. The Sunset is a convertible, and the Surf is a what we call a shooting brake, or more of a station wagon-looking car. And then we're also working on our mid-size platform, what we call Project Nina. And if you have followed us in the press, you've seen that we have announced and shown pictures of the Fisker Atlantic sedan, which is the first car on that platform. And so we're headquartered in Anaheim, California. Engineering, design, sales, all of the headquarter functions are here in Anaheim. We did acquire a 3.5 million square feet manufacturing assembly plant in Wilmington, in Delaware, where our plan is to manufacture our vehicles moving forwards.
Fantastic. So sounds like quite the undertaking.
Yeah, it's not for me it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, right? It's to come in and help build a company from the bottoms up. So but it is built, and it is building a car company from the bottoms up. So lots of complexities and lots of things to do. And very early, I joined this company a couple of years ago, and the task that was given to me that I was asked to be part of was to help get the company operational. At the time, we were really a product development company with lots of engineers, and we were slowly building, well, actually very rapidly building our operational team, sales, marketing, logistics, production control and logistics, and after sales and so forth, purchasing, materials management and so forth. And so what we did was we did select SAP to be our enterprise wide platform for our operations, and we very quickly had to start and to get on that platform. And so the first implementation we did implement SAP ERP, and the first initial implementation was in 16 weeks, where we leveraged SAP's all-in-one solution for automotive, and we were able to put a pretty big footprint of SAP live for our company relatively quickly. So with the initial implementation, we did ECC. We did the SAP portal, we put up business intelligence, and after that we have since then implemented SAP CRM, and shortly after that we also implemented SAP BPC.
So Michael, a lot of people, when they think of SAP, if they haven't experienced it firsthand, might think of it as a platform just for really big companies, right? And here you are an organization that certainly has large ambitions, is accomplishing great things, but a startup implementing BPC and SAP, right? And so I guess I'd be interested in understanding what were some of the tips and tricks. What was it that led to your success and being able to implement that solution so quickly?
Yeah, so I think for any company, the complexity is the same. I think whether you're a relatively small company or a growing company, or whether you're a big company, a lot of the complexities are there. So obviously for us, we knew, our ambition is to be an OEM and be a big OEM, and so we knew that we only had the luxury of being relatively small for a very short period of time. So we knew we had to kind of make sure that we could have a platform that we could continue to scale and tackle the complexity that comes with being a global OEM. And so, for us, SAP was the perfect fit because of the all-in-one solution, right? So this all-in-one solution that is built upon best practices, predefined best practices, business processes, and just being able to take those out of the box and leverage those, and basically say, yeah, this is best practices. These processes, they are definitely good enough for us, and so let's leverage those and let's implement those, and let's make sure that our company operates in that way. And that's something that was very much a conscious decision for us. It was very much ingrained and very much supported by our C-level executives as well, and so that's something that we've had a lot of success with.
That's great. Do you have any comments to share about your relationship with RJT and our experiences together?
So, of course. So RJT is our SI, systems integrator. They have been with us from day one and have been an absolute integral part of our success. And what we really liked about RJT, there was a couple of things we liked both about SAP and RJT. With SAP, we liked the leadership aspect, the fact that they're a market leader and that they have the thought leadership in the industry as well, the automotive industry, and that the customer comes first. That we saw that SAP's mindset is very much that, hey, they're only successful if we're successful. So we really like that, and we saw the same with RJT. We saw that RJT is a strong partner in the SAP ecosystem, that really understood our industry and really understood how to take advantage of these and implement these all-in-one solutions. So it has been and continues to be a very strong partnership, and we're very happy with RGT as our SI.
Thanks for the kind words. Maybe just before we get into the demonstration that we're going to have here, maybe you can talk a little bit about the analytics and performance management platform that SAP brings. I mean, SAP is well known for its ERP implementations and technologies, but really got in the last 5 to 7 years into this whole analytics and performance management space, and that seems to be all anybody talks about anymore. But
right.
How is that technology influencing your business? And I guess after that answer, we can go ahead and jump into the demonstration.
Sure. So, in my simple mind, with given the task of again making sure that we had a system that supports our operational processes, very early on, we basically said, look, if there's data out there, we're going to grab it. And the data that we grab, we're going to stick in one location so that we have one single version of the truth. It is controlled, and you can report off of it, and also you can do correlation analysis later on that you might never have thought of up front, right? And so we have one data warehouse, and it's called SAP Business Intelligence, or SAP BI, and that's where all the data flows. We did also, and we're leveraging a lot of standard info cubes out of BW. We have some of the BobJ pieces. We are using Webby now, and as the company matures, more and more reporting demands out there, or analytical demands and requirements are out there, and we're actually very quickly giving tools to our business users because we put that foundation in place. And so I want to talk a little bit about BPC as well. So I mean, BPC, we have also elected to implement BPC, and BPC also takes data out of BW. And we elected to implement BPC for financial planning and financial modeling. And it was again in that scenario where frankly we were doing financial planning on a very elaborate spreadsheet type application, and we needed to have something that was more robust, something that could handle many more variables, that could handle many more what-if scenarios and what-if analyses, and also something that, frankly, that we could go to our investors and to our board and say, look, I mean, we've done this planning and this analysis, and it's done in a tool that that stands up to controls, to internal audit and controls. And RGT was also very instrumental in helping us get that component up and running, and it's very much a vital tool for us today for anything that has to do with planning in our company.
Well, and, one of the things I think is most exciting about your particular BPC implementation is that as a company, you've really taken ownership of that, right? After the initial implementation, you were able to get folks internally that really understood that tool, and you've really expanded it and made it it seems like an integral part of who you are as a business.
No, absolutely, and if just one more point to that. So again, part of the vision of how to set up the IT infrastructure in this company, and this comes straight from the co-founder. He said, "Look, Michael, I want drivers and I want mechanics." And what he meant was that, look, I want to make sure that the ownership of these business systems lies in the business organization, lies within sales, finance, after sales, marketing, purchasing, wherever it is. And I want drivers in those departments that knows how to use the system very well, that are the ones that can do analytical reporting and can do all these different things. And then I want the mechanics, I want those to be on the IT side. And of course, mechanics are good drivers, but they're the guys who can also kind of really work on under the hood. So, but I think the most important thing was, the fact that the ownership of the application lies with the business, and that's something that we've been pushing very hard for, and something that I think we've been very successful in doing as well. And when it comes to BPC, frankly, I don't have anybody on my team on the IT side that does anything with BPC. The ownership of that really is all lies on the business side. We have some really strong drivers, some really strong business analysts that is doing all that work on the BPC side, on the business side. So that's has been a very, I think, positive surprise for us that we didn't really have to have, a mechanic on that side, on the IT side.
That's fantastic. And, our hat's off to you. Obviously, that makes it a lot less expensive to adopt these tools and get the type of return that you're looking for. So with that, first, thanks again, Michael, for making the time, for sharing some of your comments. I'm assuming you'll stick around for some questions towards the end of the presentation here.
Absolutely.
Great. Let's go ahead and kick off the presentation of BPC to introduce everybody on the call to that solution.
Minutes, we're going to go through a demonstration of BPC. Before we go there, I'd just like to bring up a couple PowerPoints and kind of set the stage for this application can bring to you. There's a lot of different vendors in the performance market arena, but the bottom line is any which way, shape, or form, if you want to do a budgeting, planning, forecast, or any kind of performance management application, all companies have the same type of data. They got structured data and unstructured data. The structured data is relational. Could be ERP, HR, CRM, LOB, legacy, what have you. There's also a lot of unstructured data. Matter of fact, Gartner says 80% of all performance management data really comes from unstructured data such as spreadsheets and Word files and emails. Now, some of the other vendors in this space, they do more of a modular-based approach. And what that means is that there's a module for reporting, planning, consolidation, forecasting. And the problem with this is the fact that you have to load this information up from your sources into each of these different modules. And if you make changes from one module to the next, you have to make sure that those are in sync. So you might have some integration points at this point. From an end user perspective, they might have to learn multiple front ends to be able to work with the different modules that are out there. Some could be green screen or proprietary. From SAP, we kind of take a different approach to it. Take the same data, the same structured data, unstructured data, but you're loading it once to a unified platform. Now, what does a unified platform do? Again, you load it once as one set of security, one set of data, one set of metadata. When you make changes, you make a change once, not to multiple modules that flows through the entire application. From an end user point of view, you're not learning all these different proprietary front ends. You're working with stuff that you work with every day. Microsoft Office Suite, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, web browser. And if you have a portal strategy, we can also serve up any of the BPC information via that strategy as well. The three key things I'd like you to take away from this demonstration today is the fact that this is designed for the end user. Again, working with very familiar tools, the Office Suite rather, zero footprint web interface, so as long as you can get through your firewall, you'll be able to get to your information regardless of where you are. Context-sensitive action panes, you're not going to have to memorize hundreds of different menu entries and when to click what. Based on where you are in the app and who you are, you'll have certain options available to you, regardless of the front end, web, or any of the Office interfaces. It's enterprise scalable, and it's better for business process flows, and dashboarding. With that in mind, let's go ahead and jump right on into the demonstration. What you're looking at here is the launch page for BPC. This is a dashboard in the body of the screen. And within this dashboard, and you can set this up, everything you see is going to be an example. Within this dashboard, I see different KPIs in the top left, KPI analysis, pie chart, bar chart on the right, and business process flows in the bottom left. This information can be served up from BPC and or other sources of information. Doesn't matter where the data is coming from. It's electronic. You can show it within dashboarding capabilities. If we want to go to another dashboard, here's a report library, so I can run reports from here. You've also got some other capabilities. I can use a what-if calculator here. Maybe my unit price goes up or down. How does that affect my totals, my profit? You can see these calculations, my graphics change as I start doing some what-ifs. And the powerful capability here is that when I see a what-if scenario I really like, I can go ahead and save this scenario as anything I'd like and send it back as my drivers to build maybe my next month's forecast or next year's target. So that's some of the information within the dashboarding. For this demonstration, what I'd like to do is cover a couple different examples or different types of users. So I'd like to jump in first as an analyst who gets a call from maybe the CFO. We're having some revenue issues for a certain product, look into it, but there's no reports out there to find it, so we need to build a report from scratch. And then jump in as a budget user who has to go through the steps to fill in their budget and just show you how a business process flow works. So let's start off the reporting capability. You've got a lot of different capabilities within VPC to report. I can do web reporting, or I can report on any of my different front ends, including Excel, Word, PowerPoint. So I'm going to jump into Excel first. And Excel, of course, is something that everybody knows and loves. This is not going to be Excel-like or Excel-lite. This is true native Excel with an added. So everything you've been able to do before, you can still do. I'm working with 2007. It could be 2003 or 2010. So I've got the action pane here. Based on who I am and where I am, this is what I can do. I'd like to start off with reporting analysis, a couple different flavors on building a new one versus open up an existing report. Under building new, start from scratch, drag and drop, or use the dynamic template library, which ships with the application. These are best practice reports that every company seems to love. So if I jump in here, there's a comparative, or an any by any. Show me cost center by time, or entity by account, or whatever dimension by whatever other dimension. And there's quite a slew of these. You can add to these, you can take away from these, or you can tweak each and every one of these. I'm going to go ahead and choose a comparative, hit open, and upon it open, it tells me reports been built for me. It's important to note that the data does not reside in Excel. Excel is simply going back to the database, pulling out the data as of right now. So if the data changes, this will automatically update. I'm looking at a regional hierarchy, North America, Europe, Asia, PAC role in the International Motors Corp, a fictitious motor company, car company. We're looking at current year's actuals, current budget, dollar and percent variance. You've also got stop layer here. If it's good, it's green. If it's okay, it's yellow. If it's red, it's bad. Up in my title area, looking at corporate for the account profit after tax for all products for September in U.S. dollars scaled to thousands. Now, I don't know about you, I'm more graphical in nature. Perhaps I'd like to see us more along the lines with a graph. So if you know how to do it in Excel, you know how to do it here. Highlight the range, insert. I'll do a column chart, maybe a three-dimensional. Place it, size it, and there's my graph. If I wanted to put a calculation in here, for example, what's the percentage of North America to total corporate? Well, let's see. I'm going to insert a column, and here simply type in what you want. Percent of total, and this is going to be equal to the cell that's left divided by the total. And I'll go ahead and enter that. And before I do that, perhaps I'd like to lock in the total with an F2, so when I copy paste, make that an absolute reference. Control C, Control V, and maybe we'll format that as a percentage, a couple decimal points. And in no time at all, we formatted a report. We've added a graph to it. We've thrown in calculations. Now, where the rubber really hits the road here is okay. I don't know about you, but I look at percentages, or more along the lines of things in red. They kind of grab my eye, exceptions, if you will. And I see I've got a big negative 11% variance here with Europe. Well, if you look up here, you've got the CD or current view. If I expand it, if we look at entities, you'll notice I've got multiple hierarchies. I've got this legal entity basis hierarchy in International Motors Corp. If we open up the Motors Corp, there's North America, Europe, Asia, PAC. If we open up North America and open up U.S., we see East, West, roll up to U.S., and so on. If we open up the legal basis, another hierarchy, and open up domestic, here's East again. Same sales. Let's say there's 100,000 in sales for East. Well, that 100,000 is going to roll up to domestic and then up to corporate legal. That 100 will also roll up to U.S. to North America. So you can report on this any which way, shape, or form you want. Create multiple hierarchies for your reporting needs. Now, what I'd like to do is graphically look at this and say, all right, we've got Europe. We got a negative variance. I'd like to drill on that. How do you drill? You double-click. Couple things to note here. As I double-click on that, Notice that my calculations automatically update, so it expands. I've got more children here, the calculations are there, and my graphic automatically updates. My biggest variance happens to be with Great Britain, so you can keep drilling till your heart's content. Sooner or later, you get down to the bottom. I can't drill any further in Great Britain. But you don't want to change your analysis here. You don't want to stop it. What you want to do is change your focus on it. How do you do that? Instead of looking at entities by column, or row rather, let's look at P&L accounts. As we open up P&L accounts, here's revenues and costs. Notice that 151 plus 51 gives you 100%. Why is that? They're contra accounts. It understands if you take an expense and you add into it a revenue, it's going to subtract that. So that's built-in functionality. Notice that the revenues are in red, so we can drill in on the revenues. But again, we've got the graphics update, the calculations update. When we drill in the revenues, here's your revenue information. And again, everything's in black, everything's fine with the exception of the third-party revenue. We can drill in on that, and sooner or later you get down to the bottom. Don't want to change, I don't want to stop here, so instead let's see it by now, our products. Is this happening against all products? As we drop in products, the biggest variance happens to be with our sedan family. As we drill into sedans, here are my different sedans. The X100, C100, X2, and X300. We've got actuals of $750,000. We budgeted $1 million in sales, so we're off by $250,000 or 27%. At this point, again, we could have drilled as far as we could, but perhaps you'd like to find out more information on this intersection. This is where a lot of other applications, okay, we need to get out of here, go back to our transaction system, and find all the transactions that are making that. Well, we offer you a drill through. So what I've got the ability to do here is simply click on that number. When in doubt, go to the action pane. Here's drill through. I'd like to view it via Excel or the browser. I'll choose Excel. This is going to open up another tab down here at the bottom, and it's going to show me all those transactions for Great Britain, for the X100 family. Here's the number ordered, the number shipped, and the number left on hold. So we ordered 6, or the dealership ordered 6. They're accepting 3, but decided to put 3 on hold. And we find that there's a relatively high number of units on hold here. So, for example, now we found what the issue is. I'll go back to the report with Great Britain for third-party revenue for sedans. And what I'd like to do is now communicate and collaborate around this. And how do I let the powers that be know if there's an issue in this intersection? I can add a new comment. Upon adding a new comment, I simply walk through here and I select from this wizard. Anytime I see anything in orange, it's prompting me for information. This is going to be your list. This might be a critical or a high priority. I'll go with a high UOH for units on hold, as short text type of searchable field for commentary. Got to learn how to type. For some reason, my Y isn't working. It's coming with a Z of units on hold. Interesting. So I'll go ahead and choose OK there. Comment has been stored in the database. Now, why is that important? First off, I'm going to drill back up. Remember, I drilled down on the sedan family. So if I use that and drill back up, here's sedans, SUVs, and trucks. We drill back down on sedans. What we're looking at now is a little note here saying very high number of units on hold. So that's stored in the database. You didn't see that a moment ago, only when you get down to this intersection. And you'll see this data within other intersections of other reports. So anytime you see it 729, that's available anywhere. There's also other types of commentary reports that you can run. So with that in mind, what we did in this quick example is we built a report. We formatted it with calculations. We threw in a graphic. We started drilling into it, finding certain areas, letting the red, letting the exceptions kind of let us know where to drill, and then finally drilling right through to either a staging table and or the actual source, depending on whether or not IT allows you to go back to source or whether you do work with staging tables. Now with that in mind, I'd like to shift gears and move on back to the launch page. Now let's go ahead and open up a business process flow and put on the end user hat, someone who needs to contribute to the budget. I can either click on a business process flow down here and run it, or when in doubt, open up business process flow right from the action pane. And upon clicking business process flow, I'm presented with another wizard-driven process. So I'd like to open up this thing called, in this case, annual budget. Hit the green arrow to move off to the next step. And as you walk through this, it's going to step through exactly what needs to be done. This could be automated, so the users would already have this done. They just simply click, and they're already in the process. But at this point, for a category, let's run this for budget version 2. So we've already done the original, we've done budget version 1. Now we'd like to start changing and comparing against budget version 1 and modifying that to version 2 at this point. So let's go ahead and grab that. And I'm going to do this for, let's go with the Italian entity. So that's going to be under Europe. And we'll do this for an entire year as opposed to a month. So I'll go ahead and grab the year I want to work with. And okay. Green check mark or green arrow to accept that and move off to the next. And if you didn't have rights to this, you wouldn't see those intersections as you're working through this. So now, as an end user, what is it I have to do? Well, business process flows are going to offer you navigation and guide you through a process. It's a sequential process completely defined by you. So I've got step 1, step 2, and step 3. And as you walk through these different steps, realistically, this step 1 is more along the lines of a power user or administrator that are going to set your currency rates, your human capital rates. So if you hire a new director, it's going to be X salary, or maybe everybody's getting a certain percentage raise, or your FICA rates are going to be a certain number. You pick and choose how you want to work with that. But these are the different targets that you can set, or different rates. You can set tops-down targets, so as your users go in here, they see where the corporate believes you should be, so you can kind of compare against that. And then each time we've also got this report version comparison. There's another version comparison in here as well as down here. But the end user, what we need to do is really get into the budget information, enter this information, run reports, and see how we're doing. On this business process flow, I've also got a graphic. On this graphic, I can see on my key accounts how I'm doing for budget version 1, budget version 2, and I don't have any targets set yet. How do you move through a business process flow? Notice that this one says review required, and this one's unavailable. So the power users have gone in here, made all the changes. What they need to do now is say, okay, we're going to review this step. So somebody made a change, and this is one of those gaps you could pop in here, a little stop gap where, okay, you've made the changes, someone needs to approve these changes before you continue on. So as an approver, I can look at this and see, okay, I can review my rates, I can review my standard capital expenditures, my targets, and if I'm happy, I can accept or I can reject it. So I'm going to go ahead and accept it, and a couple things are going to happen on this acceptance. One, it's going to say that this has been reviewed, and step 2, which is black right now, is now going to be open for business where I can go in here and start making changes. There'll be blue, live, dynamic links. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do is kind of start off with perhaps entering employee-related information. So as we pop in employee-related information, and again, everything I show you here is an example. You can get it granular or summarized as you'd like. So within this, what we're looking at is entering information by way of right down to the employee. You can do it by job codes or titles or whatever level of summarization. But as we look at this, okay, I've got some information here for my employees, what position they are, and then perhaps my HR system. I load this information, the anniversary date or the start date for new hires. Here's the annual salary. This could be read from a global variable, or you can do a manual data entry here to give them a % increase by year to give you a new salary. You can transfer to what department, promote to a new position, or you can terminate. And you can also have the ability to throw in explanations. You saw textual data that we entered back in the ad hoc report. This is another way to enter textual information. So a couple different what-ifs we can do here. For example, maybe Pino is going to get a 5% raise. Notice that went from 85 to 86. Fabrizio, instead of 4%, we're going to go with 10%. This is important. The maximum salary increase is 6%. Explanations for anything over 6% are required and will require a separate approval process. Do you want to continue, yes or no? As opposed to all or none on certain rules, you can have these different exceptions. And different eyes would go ahead and look at this and either, yes, I'm going to accept it, or no, I'm not. So you can't sneak things in, if you will. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, I still want to make that change, but I'll tell you what, if I'm making change of 10%, I'm going to jump over here to the explanation, just say this person's a rock star. If this person leaves, we're going to lose a lot of business. And then, for example, Danielle Della Casa, maybe we're going to transfer her to another department, maybe general admin. And again, we can add information here. At this point, I can save this information simply by hitting submit, and this automatically updates the database with automatic aggregation, automatic currency translation on the fly. This is from an exempt. If you wanted to go with a non-exempt type of functionality here, you can also do it by your new hires, or any hire rather, that are paid by way of hourly wages. So here's my regular wage rate, how many hours a week, what the overtime wage rate is. You can go ahead and make changes, but again, same type of functionality, but now you're doing it by hours versus by salary. Completely your call. When I'm done with this, I can simply click on back to BPF, back to business process flow, and this will bring me back to the screen in which we used to launch this. Now, if I wanted to see the results of any changes that I made, and you think about what we did there, it wasn't rocket science. You go in there, okay, I'm going to increase this person's wage, I'm going to do this, I'm going to move that person here to there. You think about all the stuff that happens in the background. And if we jump into personnel expenses, for example, we weren't prompted for any of this information. This is stuff that the system is automatically going to go ahead and calculate. So here's our employees, their position, the departments. Here's this, both the exempt and non-exempt salaries. But then you get into health insurance, dental, life, vision, disability, all your tax information, 401k, other benefits, Medicare, training, fringe. All these things are automatically calculated. So you're throwing in, okay, I'm going to increase this person's time 5%, or I'm going to move this person from one department to the next. All these fringe benefits and taxes are automatically calculated to give you the fully burdened employee-related expense. That's all built into the system. You don't have to have your users worry about that in any way, shape, or form. So that's one methodology of doing data entry. Another method here, I'll grab another business process flow for this one. I'm sorry, another report within this business process flow for this one. Let's say, for example, we want to start entering some expense-related information. Could be G&A expense, could be virtually anything you want. So as I jump into this report, this is going to be, again, another example. I'm going to show you quite a few different examples of how you can do this to give you a flavor. But here we're looking at, again, Italy sales cost center for budget version 2. Looking at supplies down through other miscellaneous. Here's a prior year forecast. Percent increase, decrease. So if we go rent goes up 10%, notice that everything up here did in fact change. If supplies drops down to 2%, that changes. You can have our insurance. We just got the bill. It's not $22,000, but next year it's $25,000, and that automatically spreads over the current budget based on this methodology. And what does that mean? Well, 25,000 spread evenly is pretty straightforward, or 445 pretty straightforward, but you can define your own. For example, we've defined a fast growth, maybe a slow growth, fast decline, slow decline. You can call it whatever you want. So as I look at supplies, I know my cost center better than the people that set this template, so I really want to spread this evenly. Or maybe I'd like to spread this by way of calendar days, or by work days within that month. You can pick and choose whatever makes sense. As you look at this, you're making these certain changes. If I want to make these changes and keep them, I can submit them. Again, this is going to write it back to the database and automatically update. Do the automatic aggregations and currency translations throughout, so any report I write or run, it'll automatically bring up those differences. This will just take a moment to run. And after it runs through the calculations, you'll notice that it submitted this many, accepted this many. We had no errors. If you had errors, it would let you know. So at this point, okay, we're done with entering information, showing you different spreading type of capabilities. A couple other things I'd like to point out here is the fact that there's numerous types of data entry functionalities. So, for example, if we want to do capital expenditures, I do have a report data entry template that can do just that. If we take a closer look at the enter capital expenditures, this is going to behave pretty much a lot like the employee-related one does. where your users, as they're going through here, gee, we're going to budget that we need a new PC or we need new printers and new assets of one thing or another. The beauty is that you don't have to have your users understand depreciation rules or lifetimes of assets and do all those calculations. Based on what the asset is, and perhaps the project, it's going to automatically bring in the life of that asset. If I pop in, all right, there's be 100 here, it understands that we're buying 100 of these at $1,000 a piece. So there's your initial outlay. It starts with depreciation over 60 months or 5 years. It also understands that 2010 is going to roll all the way into 2015 over 5 years. This is stuff that the users don't need to know. They simply enter what the quantity is. If they wanted to add a brand new one on the fly, they've also got the ability to go ahead and insert. So, for example, maybe I'd like to pop in that we're getting new software or new equipment. And what's that equipment going to be? It could be new laptops. So I can go ahead and pop in information that way. I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. But it's very simple to enter information as you go. Again, upon a calculation or upon submission of data, it's going to go ahead and calculate the depreciation over time. It's going to update all your expenses all the way down to your P&Ls, your cash flows, and your balance sheets. As you wrap up with this, as you enter your information and make your changes, what you may want to do is kind of see where you're doing or how you're doing against, again, where you're supposed to be or prior versions. So if I bring up this version category or version comparison report, if you will, upon bringing this up, this is showing me budget version 2 against budget version 1 against total target. Let me just change this to all my products where we can actually get to an intersection of data where we've got something and all departments. So at this point, again, I told you we didn't set our targets, but here's our budget version 2, here's our budget version 1. Right now, we have no variance. If we went ahead and made some changes, we'd see that. We did enter in some information for some of our expenses, which is starting to drive our other department expenses. So we can start seeing the deltas and the bogeys in here and start explaining why we're off. And you saw the currency conversion. You saw the commentary you could throw in here. Completely up to you how you want to set this up. So at this point, just a quick way to compare any category of data against any other category. Within this demonstration, what you've seen is building a report from scratch, adding calculations to it, throw in graphical information, throw in a commentary into the database, drilling back to a source system, then logging in as a budget user and going through a budget process. And when I'm done with this whole budget process, how do I move off to the next step? I simply say, this step is completed, and I'll move off to step 3. And with that, that wraps up the demonstration. Thank you very much.
John, thanks for going through that with us. I guess now we can go ahead and open it up for questions. We probably have, I don't know, a little over, 6-7 minutes, something like that. So I don't know if there are any questions. We'd be happy to take those live here, or if there aren't, you can certainly reach out to us directly and talk to us directly about any specific questions that you have. Michael, are you still there?
I'm still here, yeah.
Fantastic.
So, Charles, we did have one question come into the Q&A panel. We've had a couple come in so far, but the first one's from Mike, who asked, we have deployed BPC 10.0. How much of the functionality demonstrated has changed, and fundamentally, how has it changed?
That's a great question. There actually are some, and I don't know if we can ask the question back to Michael, but I don't know if he's using the NetWeaver version or the Microsoft version. There are some nuances between those two versions.
We're using the Microsoft version.
Got it. So on version 10.0, there is actually quite a bit of additional integration between the Business Object Suite as well as BPC. And additional integration between SAP ERP system and BW and BPC. So there's a significant amount of additional integration that's available there that provides value across the stack. In addition to that, a number of the user interfaces, as easy as you saw them here, they actually have gotten even better. And the web interface is much more powerful. some of the administration capabilities are even more powerful, and we weren't really able to get into a lot of those details today, given the time constraints. But certainly welcome the opportunity to talk to you one-on-one and compare and contrast those differences a little bit.
Okay, we had a couple questions from Rose. Her first one is, any experience using BPC NetWeaver?
Yeah, absolutely. So RJT's was founded in 1996 as a core ERP partner of SAP's. And so really the roots of our organization go back to that ECC, A1, BW space, and so there's a wide or a deep set of capabilities there. Michael, you can speak to the fact that we were instrumental in rolling out BW there at Fisker Automotive.
Yeah, correct. And I mean, when we looked at BPC and we were trying to make a decision between NetWeaver and the Microsoft version, this is at least a year and a half ago, and at the time, the feedback that we got, and it could have changed many times. I'm just going to tell you straight out. The feedback that we got at the time was that the NetWeaver version would be a quicker implementation than the Microsoft version would be a quicker implementation than the NetWeaver implementation. So we went down the Microsoft route, and we leveraged a lot of the extractors and basically started extracting data straight out of SAP into the Microsoft version. Since then, we have actually moved those extractors over to BW so that the Microsoft version is basically getting its data from SAP BW. So it's a SAP to BW extract that's going on. But and so I can't really talk. I don't really have any experience with the NetWeaver version, so I couldn't really tell you anything in addition to that, except that we have not really had any problems with the Microsoft version, and getting data through BW to the Microsoft version is not an issue at all. And
Great.
then the second question that I see Rose is asking is if we're getting data from any other source systems other than SAP, and right now in our BPC systems we are not. We are getting all source data from SAP.
Great. And Rose, just from a capabilities perspective, certainly wanted to speak to the fact that we have very experienced consultants both on the NetWeaver and Microsoft versions of the product, and would be more than happy to have a conversation with you about if there's some challenges that you're running into or looking for some tips and tricks. We'd be happy to have that conversation.
Okay, Charles, we had a question that was actually sent to me privately in the chat, but it's from Akil, who asked about how successful is integration with HANA for consolidation and planning.
That's it's pretty new, right? And so currently that's in the ramp up. And so I would say that the vision is very compelling. To be able to put these applications in memory provides significant benefit to business users. That's something that is evolving right now, right? And so what we recommend is that we have one-on-one conversation with that organization and make sure that HANA is the right move at this time. But we are seeing a number of organizations that think that it's the right thing to do and are seeing very significant improvements in performance and helping them to accomplish goals, to get their business more on a real-time basis. But we think that it's important to have that conversation one-on-one and make sure that you're making that decision based on the criteria that are specific to your organization.
Actually,
Joe, this is Michael. I mean, we do not have HANA in our environment today, but we're actually also very interested in learning more about what that will look like.
Akil states that they are currently implementing HANA and they're looking forward to implementing BPC later. So he was just interested if there were any, if you knew of any integration success stories. So.
Well, so from that perspective, I'm sure that you're aware that data services and data extractors, there are some native data extractors that integrate the two tools, and so getting information in and out of HANA is something that you can actually leverage existing skill sets to do that. So I don't know if that answers the question, but would welcome additional follow-up on that if we'd like to get into more detail.
And actually, this is another question related to HANA. Comes from Elizabeth, who says that they're on 7.5 SQL, pulling data directly from SAP ECC. Wants to know if they can move to a HANA version of BPC without using BW or NetWeaver. That's a fairly specific question, I'm guessing.
That's a pretty specific question, right? So I think we probably should address that directly offline.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the contact information for Charles is up on the screen. So feel free to kind of forward that question over to him as well. We have a time for maybe one or two questions over the phone line. So if you want to ask a question over the phone line, all you have to do is hit *6 on your telephone keypad, and that will unmute your phone line. So you can go ahead and ask your question after you've done that. Again, it's *6 on your telephone keypad, and that will unmute your phone line. Any questions over the phone? Well, Charles, it sounds like we don't have any questions over the phone, and we've gotten through all the ones that have been sent in to us. Did you or Michael have any final comments that you would like to go through?
I guess one last thing I would say is that it's kind of opportune that we're having this conversation at this time, a week before ASUG and Sapphire in Orlando, and I will be presenting on Monday, and really the presentation is about how do you implement a solution like this in an affordable way, and in a way that you really get the return on investment that you're looking for. And so I believe that presentation is at 2 o'clock on Monday. Obviously, invite anybody that's on the call to join me there, and be happy to answer any questions that you have face to face. And Michael, are you going to be there as well?
I will. Yeah, I will be. Yeah. And Joe, I just want to say thank you to you and ASUG for putting this together. Appreciate it.
Oh, thanks a lot, Michael. And again, we encourage everyone who's attending ASUG Annual Conference, SAP Sapphire now, to check out Charles's presentation. We look forward to having as many people as we can at Annual Conference this year.
Excellent. Thanks again, Joe. Michael, thank you so much for making the time.
That does conclude our webcast for today. Just a final reminder that the presentation and recording will be sent out to all the registrants and posted to asug.com. Look to the events calendar for future webcasts. We have things of interest to almost everyone. Also, again, a final reminder about ASUG Annual Conference, SAP Sapphire, that's coming up starting on Monday of next week. Thanks again for your participation today, and we hope you have a great rest of your week.